Hi everyone. Thank you for tuning in. It is a great pleasure today to have Michael to talk about a little bit about 3D Experience platform related to data management. So I'll give him the floor to introduce himself properly, and after that, if you got any question, feel free to ask until the end of the meeting, or you got like opportunity to post it in the chat. So we Michael can answer it after the end of the meeting. Thank you so much, Michael, for accepting the invitation.
You're very welcome. So I'm Mike Newell. I work for SolidWorks. I've been with SolidWorks since 2009. Started out as product definition for the SolidWorks PDM product. Do you recall way back when? And about 6 years ago, I joined the XApp group. So now I'm working with that product definition team for the XApps, XDesign, XStructure, all those. In addition to that, I handle most of the platform management stuff for SolidWorks. As you know, much of this is a mashup of many products. We have, Anovia, CATIA, SolidWorks, and the platform is made up of all these different products to try to make a good experience for our customers. In addition to that, try to cover all the business use cases you have. So today I'm going to go through some strategy on how to manage your data. I'm going to go through basically 3 applications that are the main applications for managing your data, and give you a little strategy on when to use each. And then the 4th is relations. Doesn't have any actual management application to it, but it is essential to know what's going on with your data. So I'm going to get going. I'm going to share my screen. And I'm going to assume everyone can see it. So this is the presentation today, the Experience platform. I'm going to go through the 3, really it's 3 main applications for managing your data, and then a bonus one called relations for, being able to see how the connections to your data is happening. And we're also going to take an in-depth look at managing access to your data. Creating data, so our XApps, that's the cloud applications, consists of XDesign, mold, shape, frame, sheet metal. And of course, the what we call is the A app, which is connected to the cloud, is the SolidWorks Connected. Those are the apps that we use, that the SolidWorks brand uses to create data. Now, on the other side of that, we have the XDrawing. Now, XDrawing uses the data that those other 6 apps make to create a documentation or annotations. So what are the types of objects that are created? I'm not going to go too deeply into this, but I want you to have a bit of a sense of what's going on. So the XApps create basically 2 objects, and they're connected. A physical product. So a physical product contains the properties of the title, the revision, the maturity state, this kind of information. And then the 3D shape, that contains all of the geometry that the designer creates. And the 2 together create a document that has your full design. And on the SolidWorks connected side, we create a CAD family. Now, the CAD family is, I guess, simply put, a container for the actual SolidWorks file. The XApps do not, this isn't a file-based system. This is database system, so we don't have that family object. But in SolidWorks, we have the CAD family object that sort of captures the file, and then the actual design is captured in the configurations of that file, which I'm sure you're all very aware of. And that's those spawn off physical products that are managed. So in X drawing, like I said, X drawing consumes the data that the other has this top annotation set. You have annotation saved, use PLM layouts and sheet references. And all of those objects together create what you would call an annotation set. So the applications for managing data. What I'm going to do is, no one wants to look at PowerPoint, right, for an hour. So we're going to get, and we're going to look at the actual product. So 3D Space is really where you get your credentials. 3D Space in many organizations that I speak to, they try, users try to equate this with Windows folders. And I want to tell you, that's really not a good mental model for a 3D space. 3D spaces are bigger than that. 3D space is, like I said, where you get your credentials, and it really isn't a place where you would want to manage and organize your data. Okay, and just so it's SolidWorks right? So conversation, you looking at this and say, well, this presenter really is telling us one thing, but he's doing another. I have to do this because of the testing. Now, in the real world, not in creating engineering software, you would have collaborative spaces based on your projects and based on access. That's the best way to look at this. And you would have the minimum amount of collaborative spaces required to do that. So you wouldn't necessarily want to create a collaborative space for every project that you're working on if all of the users are essentially in all of those projects. Essentially, you could create one collaborative space and organize your data in a different way, which I'll be showing you later. The other application is essentially a to do various, it's this in here, actions to manage your data. Collaborative life requires, as I just did, a drag and drop, and then you would work on your data, and then you would work on your data, and then you'd basically X out of it. So it's sort of a one-off way to manage your data. Now there's great actions you can take in here, but like I said, it's sort of a one-off. So you can use 3D space and collaborative lifecycle together and kind of drag and drop like I just did and be able to, create a revision, create a branch, duplicate, that kind of thing. So that could be a strategy. The best option is using Bookmark Editor. So the Bookmark Editor application is the application that we use on the platform to organize your data. And you can also share from Bookmark. I'm sorry? Okay, I'm going to keep going. You can also share from Bookmark Editor, which I'll get into in detail later on. So 3D Space, again, is basically your credentials, which we call P&O, people in organization. Collaborative Lifecycle is a one-off sort of application to be able to do pointed actions. Bookmark Editor is the all-encompassing application to do pretty much everything. And Relations is the application to be able to see how your data is connected. SOLIDWORKS PDM, we have the where used and the contains, right? So in Relations, we would show both of those, in addition, many, many, many others. So that is sort of the overview of the applications that we're going to discuss today. So diving a little it is all encompassing, has everything. Every is in a collaborative space. And who gets access to this is by who we assign certain rights to. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new collaborative space. I'm going to call it slug test. You can add a description if you want. And we have different types. So a design collaborative space is basically just for that. It's for your for your design data. And then you have the standard collaborative space, which is for standard components that really have no intellectual property, requirements to them. It's data that is reused over and over again, nuts, bolts, this type of thing. And in that, the visibility you have visible users. And then you have spaces create where it's content to use. So I'm going to go ahead and create this. And I called it slug test. So now this collaborative space, has absolutely no data in it. I'm going to go to one that I created earlier today, Swag, and this has a skateboard assembly. It also has some materials and so forth. This is so this would be, let's say, for a project that I wanted to to go ahead and create new skateboards. And over here, we have the P&O, basically the credentials. So I'm Michael Newell, and I'm leader owner of them. So I want to add someone, basically, the data. So what you create can be saved into this SWG collaborative space. And then you have leader and owner. Leader and owner is a combined credential. Leader is I can do everything in this collaborative space. Owner is a little different. Owner is I can do everything in this collaborative space except for one thing, and this is kind of trips people up sometimes. Owner is a manager role. It actually, you can't create data if you have just the owner credential, oddly enough. So that's how you would, so you just go ahead and type, I think I have another user called Michael Newell, the other Michael Newell, and then you just add members. It's really as simple as that. So now I have myself, and I have the other Michael Newell, who's an author. So that's the basics of collaborative space, and the strategy of using collaborative spaces is that you would only have as many as you need to handle different users. If you didn't want the other Michael Newell to be working in the SWG on the skateboard, there's ways of getting around Michael Newell getting pointed ability in your designs, and we'll be going over that. So collaborative life cycle, again, collaborative life cycle, you have some pretty handy menus here. This just goes ahead and clears out whatever you have. So I can go back to 3D space. I can go ahead and take, let's say, the truck assembly, drag and drop that in. And in this, you can create a revision. Now, revisioning, 3DExperience platform creates another whole stream of data. Data where you you're scanning an evolution. It's going to try something else on this, and you notice here the credentials that I spoke of. Now, these credentials are being pulled from the collaborative space, right? I have all these collaborative spaces that you saw. And in your life, if you're using the 3DExperience platform for your engineering, it's likely you're going to have much less. You're going to have be a handful. But these credentials are essentially what you're telling the system, what credential I have to actually do this. Now, if I were to have just a number of these collaborative spaces, and then in addition, there's an advanced sort of reuse the component, exclude it completely. This is a lot like copy tree, if you will, in SolidWorks PDM. So you can create a completely new structure by using this advanced branch. And then duplicate is basically the same, except behind the scenes, there's an attribute that is a little different, which allows you to do other stuff with duplicate that you wouldn't be able to do with branches in other applications. I'm going to sort of leave that there because it gets a little bit complex. And then you have the ability to compare, and then the ANOVA information. So the ANOVA information for this platform has all of these attributes that have been put in into the design process. For instance, the maturity state, which all objects on the platform have. This one happens to be in work. I'm the owner. The organization is company name, which can be set to, you actually have other organizations. You can apply that organization to this piece of data. And then, of course, delete. The collaboration is basically, what do you want to do with this data? Now, I have this truck assembly, and I can go ahead and I can share this data with another user. Now, here's the thing. We have the collaborative spaces, and I'm going to use Mohammed because the other Michael Newell is long-winded. I'm going to use Mohammed's name when I explain this out. If Mohammed is not in the truck assembly collaborative space, right, I can still share this data with him and can read and edit. So you see, you can further reduce your need to create multiple collaborative spaces if you have a strategy on how you want to share your data. I can share this to Mohammed, and he doesn't even have to have access to that collaborative space. He would find this truck assembly through search, and through search, he could then bookmark it. And then change owner of the truck assembly, pretty straightforward. If I wanted Mohammed to be the new owner of the truck assembly, then I could go ahead and grant that to him. And then there's lock and unlock. So this is synonymous to check in and check out. SolidWorks PDM, locking the truck assembly. So the other users now can't make edits to it. So what happens if you don't lock any of your data? Well, the reality is, if I'm working in XDesign and I don't lock any of my data, it's basically first in wins. So if Mohammed makes some changes to the axle, and I'm working on the axle in context of this assembly, what's going to happen is I'm going to get a message that's going to say, you can't save. So how do we stop people from doing that? Well, we go ahead and we lock the data, right? And just another note on that, you can actually, when you lock, you can go ahead and lock the 3D shape, or you could lock the physical product. The physical product lock would lock users from being able to edit the structure, and the 3D shape lock would simply lock the geometry out. So you wouldn't be able to change the geometry of that component. And that is it really for collaborative lifecycle. So again, collaborative lifecycle is kind of a one-off sort of application that can be used in conjunction with 3D Space or Bookmark Editor for that matter. But for the most part, it's you know, kind of a one and done operation. I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint here and see where we're at. Like I said, I kind of like to stay out of the PowerPoint, but I make sure I went through everything. Types, they can see in the types of collaborative spaces. The public is when the data is private maturity state. You can't have access to it, but you know, all the other maturity states you do. And the maturity, these are the maturity states for engineering data on the platform. Each type of data has its own, but this is engineering data, a physical product being one of those. Protected, see the protected is private, and then once it's released or obsolete, it's public. And then private's just straight away private. And we went through this sort of live. Okay, so next application we can get into is Bookmark Editor. So Bookmark Editor is the application, the only application really, that is all about organizing your data. So here we can go ahead and create a new bookmark. Call it Swug. Again, we're getting the credentials from a certain collaborative space, right? Again, it's sort of the same thing over again. And you can see here that 3DExperience World and 3DExperience World Owner and Leader are broken out. Now, what happens if I were to select Owner here? That means that I can't add anything to this bookmark. I can't add. I can only manage. So, you know, got to go ahead and hit Leader on this, and then collaboration bookmark, and then there's the computer that creation. Call it Swug. Go ahead and create that. So now I have another bookmark called Swug. Now you can imagine if you're working on a project, right? Rather than making 1 million collaborative spaces that have no, well, the other thing too, right, is you'll notice there are no management tools in 3D space. So, you know, it makes it rough. You got to be dragging and dropping into a collaborative lifecycle like we just spoke about. That's a lot of work. But using Bookmark Editor, you have all of these tools that you can use on your data. So I'm going to go ahead and restore this. And I'm going to go ahead and take 3D Space. These are widgets that we use, so you can go ahead and do that. And for instance, we have log as this data, so you can go ahead and just drag and drop data from here and drop it right in. 5 objects. So you go ahead and select the data that you want to take. So this is a one-shot deal, right? This is kind of you can set this up in many different ways. This is one way to go ahead and, okay, got that. And I'm going to simply get rid of this. I don't need it. I'm going to delete that widget from this. And I'm going to maximize. So now I've gone ahead and added data to my SWG, my SWG bookmark. And pretty simple. So that's it. I'm kind of done with that. I don't have to do it again. It'll always be here. And like I said, it's not working with a collaborative life cycle in a collaborative space. And it's a lot more simple. So I don't mean to belabor the point, but I'm trying to sort of get a strategy in your minds of making life easier for yourself. And that is definitely one of the ways to do it. In preferences, we have a number of things you can do. So the credentials here we're working off of Project Boom Lift. The other part about this credential is when I create, it actually create in here, it will put it in the Project Boom Lift collaborative space. In other words, when I create a bookmark, that's where the bookmark is going to go. The bookmark is an object in the database like all other objects, okay? And that's how the connections are made in the system by this bookmark object. And you have drag and drop behavior. I always kind of like copy. Hide bookmark child products, which is the children. Enable expansion of projects, which will actually create a hierarchy event within. Otherwise, it's a flat list. And then enable 6W tags for filtering. That's if you're using search and tags. And then show index data. So the system indexes constantly, but what happens is you can actually show that the database mode, which is non-indexed data, which is all the data before index, but that happens for less than 3 minutes. And then at 3 minutes, it goes back to index mode, and we do that for platform performance. So the standard skateboard, we have, like, for instance, these subcomponents. And had I not put that switch on, this would be a flat list. But I kind of like to be able to see the parent-child relationships in this. Okay, so going through these real briefly, there's certain ways to add. You can, simply add it from Windows, an entire folder. You can upload. You can make a connection or a link to an external URL. You can change the way your views are. You can download. So downloading is only for document type. Okay, I believe I have in here Project Boom Lift. Like, for instance, this is a document, right? There are types. Obviously, there's types of objects in the 3DExperience platform. All documents are Word, PowerPoint, PDF. Those all get attached to a document object. So that's essentially what that download does. If there isn't any, then obviously there's nothing to download. So if I were to hit this, doesn't have any documents. So it's just simply for that type. Some people get confused with that, and I want to make it clear. So we have maturity. You can change the maturity of this selected component, release it to freeze. These are the maturity states for the engineering software, the engineering type, physical product. And then this long list, we went through all of these revisions, new revision, a new branch. New revision from is a way to take the 3D shape information from on one object and use it in another one. Replace by latest revision is kind of a very handy operation. If you had multiple revisions here, you could replace by the latest revision. So I unfortunately, I do think that I have just latest here. Yeah. Yep. And then replace by revision. So you could, select a certain revision level to bring into your bookmark. And then, of course, just like in Windows, you have cut copy. So I could copy this and bring it to roller assembly bookmark and then paste it, basically paste it in there, right? Share. Share, can read, can edit. So you have share on the component. You'll notice it's the exact same as the collaborative lifecycle share. So all of the shares on the platform are the same component behind the scenes, which is great, right? You don't want to have to go and learn new commands for every time that you want to do something. So they're all the same, regardless of the application. Now, another thing you can do is you can share a bookmark. So back to the strategy of reducing collaborative spaces, right? And being able to sort of share with other team members, you can actually just share a bookmark. And the levels that you share is can view. So that means that they can view the data. Can read. So can read and can view. The only difference is if you have a can read level, that means you can instantiate or use in assemblies. In other words, if I can just view, I can't go ahead and take a component and drop it into a structure and use it as a reference, right? I can't create references, I guess is a better way of putting it. So that's the difference between can read and can view. Can edit, you can edit, the data straight away and be able to save. And can manage has all of these, but you can go ahead and you can add people to you can actually share the SWG bookmark. So that's a pretty powerful one. And then this one is has less importance. Can remove and add attachments. Attachments are in information where you can attach a document to the bookmark, and this means you can add and remove. So getting a little deeper, actually, I wanted to talk a bit more about this before I turn it off. Getting a little deeper into this. So the bookmark share is, excuse me. The bookmark share is essentially plus permissions. So you can't reduce somebody's permissions if they're in the collaborative space. And in addition to that, if Mohammed isn't, excuse me, if Mohammed isn't in the collaborative space, I have to share the document and I have to share the bookmark for him to get both. See? And if Mohammed is in the collaborative space, I can't reduce his permissions by sharing. You can only add. So essentially, essentially, what you have is when you're working, you could have certain pieces of data that you want to share, and perhaps Mohammed only needs view rights in the collaborative space, but this maybe wheel assembly that he's going to design around, he needs edit access to, so you could do that through the share process. Share him the document. In addition to that, share him the bookmark, so he can also take benefit of the structure. So that's kind of a nuance of this, but important to know. But it is certainly a way to organize your data so you don't have a million collaborative spaces. And why do I keep saying you don't want a million collaborative spaces? Because when projects end and so forth, it's much less management. You can just remove the share from, you can just essentially remove the share from that user. And then you're basically done. Collaborative space is a little more difficult because you have to remove them, and then you have to make sure that they aren't completely removed, because there are probably documents in there that they need to get to, and it becomes a puzzle that's very, very, very difficult to solve. This sort of makes it a little bit easier. And over here is where in the information, so I'm in context of the bookmark, and over here I'm in the information panel, and that's essentially where you manage the visibility to the bookmark, right? In addition to that, same applies to the document. In this case, it's not shared. I could share this again to the other Michael Newell. So essentially, this is where you see who has access to that information. Okay, so that is the share. We went over move and change owner and lock and unlock. So the beauty of bookmarks is this: they're not synonymous to Windows folders. You have the ability to have a one-to-many. So I can have this standard skateboard in 50 bookmarks, right? They're only connections. They're connections to the like I said, the bookmark is an actual object. And essentially all you're doing is creating a connection to that bookmark. If I were to go and take this shaft and say, well, I don't necessarily want this bookmarked in a revision for whatever design reason, I could just go ahead and remove it, right? And you can remove the structural objects, essentially the children. And that will be removed out of the bookmark. And then, of course, again, we go to indexed and database mode, so you can see exactly what is going on. Go back to SWUG and a skateboard. So you can add multiple components to many bookmarks and just simply remove them later. And then delete. This is the big delete. This is delete from the database. Delete is a pretty powerful command. Of course, there's rules if the data is released, connected to something that's released. So you're not breaking assemblies and so forth. There's many rules around delete with the maturity, ownership, and visibility in the collaborative space. In moving on, the find, trying to get through this quick. Find, is very similar to Excel, standard deck. It'll highlight standard deck. And the other is actual information we went through. Actual search is kind of good. it's extremely fast. It's in context of the view that you're in. So in the SWOG, I have a physical product axle, and so I have two axles. And this you can quickly find, drill down and find that data that is in that bookmark. And you can see that was relatively quick. And then like I said, I spoke about the index mode and the database mode. So that is Bookmark Editor. I'll go back to this. I'm running low on time. Adding bookmarks. So yes, view and reference with that. Types of bookmarks. Controlling the revision. All right. That was good. So relations. Relations has no. Stop. Relations has no data management commands. So it's a little odd that's in this. I agree. It's a little odd that it's in this presentation. But I wanted to just kind of say, you know, without relations, it's hard to do a lot of stuff in collaborative lifecycle in Bookmark without really knowing what you're working on, right? I know in the real world, in production and stuff, when you're going to revise a component, you want to know what the where used is to see what the change is going to impact the change. In this case, we have where used relations, which lucky we have a connection to the bookmark SWOG, right? And its parents are the standard deck. And just quickly to show you, there are many relations that you can sort of drill down into. I like design relations. Well, not I like, I use design relations in where used. Those are the two that I use. The design relations gets you the instance counts and all of this, how many instances of this is used in the skateboard. Really handy information. There are other things that are in here. Routes, if you're changing your data through routes, you may have a component that's on change through a route process. You can see the routes that data has been through. There's requirements. There's a requirements app. You can see what requirements are on this. So, you know, this is a really powerful way to understand exactly the connections in the 3DExperience platform that your data is has. Okay. So that is relations. We are 9 minutes left, so perhaps we should get to questions. Mohammed, do we have any? Mohammed?
Yeah, if anyone got questions, feel free to ask.
Hi, Mohammed. I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Kind of.
Can you hear me, please?
I can hear you pretty good. Yep.
Hello, Mohammed. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Michael, thank you
Yeah,
so
go
much
ahead.
for this brief introduction. And I have one question. When we have a design component in basically in X design, and it is being shared between two members, and when the other member, for example, if one member, I share a file of X design with my fellow member, and if he tries to modify that part, is it we can see the design modification made by him, or we our major part, the main part, will be saved, or it will be permanently replaced with those changes?
Yes. So for instance, if um, I'm working in standard skateboard and you go ahead and you're working on bushing, let's say, you change the bushing component, what will happen is I will get a message that says I need to refresh the session. And I'll go ahead and refresh the session. What that will do is bring that 3D shape information or physical product information from the database that you saved to into my session and essentially making my session up to date.
Okay, Mike. So our major component will be replaced.
The the save will be complete replaced. So okay, so that's one that's a 3D shape change. Let's say you have standard skateboard open and I have standard
Yeah.
skateboard open, and you remove the wheels, completely remove the wheels, you remove them from the structure and you hit
Yes.
save. I get a message that says that you're not, your system is not up to date. And then I go and refresh refresh my global refresh my session. And what will happen is the wheels disappear because you remove them.
Yes, I got it.
It's always keeping everything up to date. So
So
essentially what you're doing is just
I
go ahead.
have
Mhm.
yes. So do I have also the option to reject those changes? The message, the pop-up.
You do not have the ability to reject changes, because essentially what has happened is you've already saved to the database and
Yes.
it's already in there. So we don't have a way of undoing I can't undo what you did. But that's
Okay. Okay.
a decent, a very decent enhancement. So I appreciate you saying that.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Any other questions?
We can go with more questions if you got one. So free to ask. You got an expert here.
Didn't quite catch that. Okay, so if there are no additional questions, I did want to say thank you for coming to this. I really appreciate it. And I also wanted to say, if you're ever willing to give feedback on some of the projects that I do and the product as the product goes forward, not just my projects, but the entire SolidWorks PD groups projects, I'd love to hear from you. I'd like to be able to add you to my list of users that I use to bounce project concepts off of. So that's my email. Again, I really appreciate everyone coming out today. I sincerely hope you learned something today about 3DExperience, and and how the P&O works and how share works, and a strategy for using the applications together to make your life easier and more efficient.
Thank you so much, Michael, for accepting the invitation. And also the meeting is going to be recorded, so you're going to find it on YouTube channel. If you miss anything, you will find it there. And also feel free to reach out to Michael, share his emails. Thank you so much again, and thank you so much, you guys, for attending. See you in the next meeting. Really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Have a great
Thank you,
afternoon.
thank you so much.
You're welcome.